The most famous cheese in Provence takes its name from this lovely old town behind me. It's called Banon, and it's made only from raw goat's milk and ripened in chestnut leaves. I've come here to see how it's made and look at some of the other wonderful cheeses made in this beautiful region of France. There's something about Provence in late spring that makes it feel quite different to any region in France. Perhaps it's the fleeting smell of lavender, assorted wild herbs in the air, or the strong light and old sun-bleached stone houses. But one thing's for sure, this part of southeast France runs at its own pace. It feels as if time has stood still ever since the region was named by the Romans. Blessed with rugged mountains, fertile river valleys and coastal plains, long hot dry summers and short mild winters, Provence produces an extraordinary variety of food and wine. And of course, that includes a significant number of goat's milk cheeses. The traditional cheeses of the region were made from both goat and ewe's milk, but today all that remain are those made from goat's milk. Milk production is extremely seasonal, and a defining feature of all the regional cheeses is their small size and typical flat rounded shape. I've come here to learn about a Provence benchmark called Banon. It was granted appellation status by the French government in 2003, and it's the only AOC cheese in France to be wrapped in chestnut leaves, and any copies are frowned on. To learn more, I've asked affineur Eric Meredith to be my guide.
In this area, it's one of the oldest cheeses, and it dates back because they needed to preserve the cheeses that they were making for the winter. So what they did was took a normal goat's milk cheese, small format, dried it out on purpose, and then what they did was wrapped it in chestnut leaves in the fall, and they put it in jars with eau de vie, an alcohol from the region.
Right.
They put this jar with the cheeses in it next to the heater, and little by little in the winter they would just take the cheeses out and eat them because the goats weren't giving milk in the winter, and that was one of their main sources of protein.
Banon is now produced by more than 30 dairies, and it turns out that Eric has arranged a visit to one of the smallest. Banon can only be made using fresh, raw goat's milk from 3 breeds of goat. And to guarantee the authentic flavour of the cheese, the goats must be free to forage outside on the dry wild scrub for a minimum of 220 days a year. This farm works only with the very aristocratic curly-horned breed known as Rove. Milking takes place morning and afternoon and is shared by husband and wife team, Francois and Vanessa. Can you explain to me what's the best thing about working on the farm and making cheese?
Manger du fromage quand on veut.
Eat cheese whenever they want.
And the worst thing?
Et le pire?
Et le pire, se lever à 5 heures pour aller faire la traite à 5h30.
Get up at 5 o'clock to go milk the goats at 5:30.
And what about the flies?
Every day.
Oui, et les mouches.
Et les mouches.
Et bon, voilà, nous on sait qu'on va pas dehors manger.
The couple moved to this tranquil little farm more than a decade ago. And like many of the dairies in the region, they make several different types of goat cheese. Banon is quite different because the curds are quickly set with animal rennet, rather than depending on slow and gentle overnight lactic coagulation. The reason for this traditional technique dates back to the days before refrigeration, when the hot, dry climate made it difficult to cool fresh milk and prevent it from coagulating before cheese making. After the young curds have been drained for several days, the dried chestnut leaves are softened with eau de vie or water. The number of leaves used to wrap Banon is strictly controlled, and the natural raffia used to tie them together must only be passed around the cheese a total of 8 times.
So what you're looking for basically in a good aged Banon is something that stays relatively creamy. You'll have lots of kind of mushroom notes. Can get kind of what they call sous-bois.
Sous-bois, what's that?
In France. It's that sensation you get kind of when you're walking in the forest a little bit. Kind of mushroomy, a little bit moss, bark, oaky, those kind of flavors.
Vanessa's soft lactic cheeses can be eaten just as they come, lightly pan-fried or baked on fresh bread. After tasting this family's exceptional cheeses, I'm most impressed. Their passion and commitment to the job is really inspiring.
Cheers. Cheers to you.
My next stop was one of the small cheese shops in the centre of Banon, where I was delighted to discover dozens of unusual cheeses I'd never seen before, including a fresh unsalted cheese called Brousse du Rove. Once only sold on the streets of Marseille, it takes its name from a small village to the west of the city and claims to date back to a Greek shipwreck over 2,000 years ago. The goats from the ship apparently bred with the local goats, creating a tough dual-purpose breed known as the Rove. Numbers dropped to less than 2,000 in the 1970s, but they are now increasing rapidly thanks to the revival of interest in farmhouse cheese. This breed thrive on the sparse vegetation of Provence and provide 1.5 litres of exceptionally rich milk a day for cheese making.
Now, you've just heated this up to 90 degrees, wasn't
Yes, 90 degrees, and I wait that it will be at 70 degrees. During the years, I don't take the same temperature.
Once the milk has cooled, vinegar is added. In only a matter of seconds, the curds begin to separate and float to the surface, to be carefully collected in a sieve.
You just spread it around. Yeah, and then just take it out like that.
Yes.
Easy.
Yes, very easy.
This would be a cheese that really you only find in this region, because with 2 or 3 days shelf life, it doesn't go anywhere.
No.
So if you want to try this cheese, you really have to.
You gotta come to Provence.
Why? Exactly. It will be perhaps a little hot.
Oh, look at that. I can imagine with some sugar, it'd be
Why?
sensational.
Why?
Sugar or honey, or if you
Honey.
want lavender honey.
That's, yeah.
From Provence.
Now you're talking. Yeah. That's lovely.
There are now 10 producers of genuine Brousse du Rove, but as the demand for this extraordinary fresh cheese has grown, an increasing number of producers have begun selling imitations made from milk other than the Rove goat, or heaven forbid, cow's milk. To defend the original Brousse du Rove, local farmers formed a resistance movement in 2007 to try and have it recognised under official regulations. Led by Francois Borel, its plight was considered so serious it was quickly recognised as an endangered cheese by the Slow Food Presidium.
On the farm, they produce everything. The foin, the cereals that they give.
And for olive trees, because we produce
Fancy
olive oil aussi. Et ensuite, nous transformons tout notre lait. La totalité du lait produit est transformée chez nous par ma femme, Sandrine.
Okay, so all of the milk is made into cheese on the farm.
Do you have any trouble selling the product? Is it simple to sell the product?
La demande est largement supérieure de ce que nous pouvons produire.
There's more of a demand than they can produce.
So the demand exceeds supply. So really, I'm very lucky to be trying this cheese. So I think I better have another one.
So am I.
And say thank you very much. That's fantastic. Yeah, we have some more.
Yeah,
Quick, whilst we're in front.
You won't find Brousse du Rove outside Provence, so if you visit, don't miss the chance to try it. The story of St Marcellin began here, deep in the forest of Vercors in 1445, when the young Dauphin of France was hunting. Attacked by a large bear, he was saved by two woodcutters, who later consoled him with some cheese. And so the legend began. The young Dauphin was so impressed with the flavour of the cheese, he insisted on a regular supply at the royal court. And over the following centuries, St Marcellin became the most well-known cheese in the old Dauphin region. The mountains here are dominated by the mighty Vercors plateau, and the rugged slopes were notorious as an important stronghold of the French resistance in World War II. St Marcellin was originally made on dozens of farms surrounding the small village of St Marcellin, but regrettably, most of these have now disappeared. I've arranged a visit to one of the largest and most respected of the remaining producers, a dairy called Fromagerie L'Étoile. More than 90% of the St Marcellin produced here is still made from raw milk, and equally popular is a slightly larger modern cheese called St Félicien, which was invented 30 years ago for the markets of Lyon.
Very important thing about our traditional cheeses, St Marcellin and St Félicien, is that they are still made in these white plastic machines. First of all, we can control the acidity of the cheese inside, and second of all, we keep the entireness, the integrity of the curd, and then the next step, of course, is the ladling, and you can see with the ladle that they keep again this very important integrity.
So making the curd that way would retain the moisture and
yes,
also ensure that flavours of the milk are really there.
Yes.
They stay there.
Yeah. It's for the moisture, the flavour and the texture.
So this technique here, it's the same for St Marcellin and for St Félicien.
Yes.
Except the St Félicien is a bit bigger.
Yes. The only difference between the two cheeses is the St Félicien is biggest, is a bit bigger, and also we add some cream inside. As you can see, they go forth and back because the density of the curd is not the same at the bottom and at the top of the basin. So that's why they start on one end and then they go this way and back so that you can get, if possible, the same density, the lowest one and the biggest one in the same added, and in the middle you'll get this way.
Once they've been drained, the cheeses are turned by hand every 6 hours before being removed from the hoops 24 hours later. Traditional wooden racks are used at this stage as the natural qualities of the wood are considered essential, encouraging how quickly the cheese is drained.
We want to get rid of the lactose serum at these phases, which is called réessuyage. And afterwards, the refining is, on the contrary, to keep the water inside and to help the cheese to refine. But at this stage, we have to get rid of the lactose serum and to stop acidification.
Otherwise, you just get a very, very chalky cheese.
Yes.
After draining, the cheeses are placed on racks under fans in an airy room with louver windows. a modern way of replicating the infamous hot, dry mistral winds that blow across the region in summer and were once used to dry the cheese. The St Marcellin are then placed back on traditional wooden trays and matured at a temperature of 10 degrees for several weeks. Humidity and moisture loss are carefully controlled by cross-stacking the racks. So the wood really has a symbiotic relationship with the cheese.
Yes, it's symbiotic in the way that it protects it from the airflows, and also it really keeps the right temperature and the right humidity.
These cheeses here,
Yes.
are they just perfect now?
Yes, now they are perfect, as you can see. Very nice protection over on the top, and it's really soft in the heart. I will show you. This is really the cheese you want to eat.
So this will be about, what, 19 days old, 20 days old?
Yes, we can go up to 4 to 5 weeks. Okay. We have the proteolysis here, thanks to geotrichum and the soft heart. Of course, now it's a bit cold, but if you come up in temperature, it will be melting and delicious. Do you want to test?
Yeah, okay. So very young at this stage. That's really nice, eaten like that. Delicious. Really good. During maturation, the cheeses are regularly turned, and the final selection of what is ready to go to customers is made by hand. Presentation varies from a bed of traditional straw to terracotta or even plastic pots. The original St Marcellin was almost certainly made from goat's milk. But here in the Vercors, the forest was cleared over the centuries, and today the only St Marcellin you'll find is made with cow's milk. There's one well-known regional cheese made in the Rhone River region that has links to both Banon and St Marcellin and dates back to written accounts in 1320. The next cheese I'm going to look at is called Picardon, and it's one of the oldest goat cheeses in this part of France. It's also got a close cousin called Picardon Dieu le fit, which literally means made by God. And I don't think you get anything better than that when it comes to cheese. Picardon was granted AOC status in 1983 and is now produced under half a dozen names from raw or thermized goat's milk. Quality varies according to producer, and the best examples are found in the south of Drôme, on the borders of Provence. To find out more, I arranged to visit the famous Cavett family maturation rooms.
St Marcellin is made from cow's milk now. By now, I mean that I believe there was a time when St Marcellin was made from goat's milk. However, after neutralizing began and then pasteurization, it is better adapted to cow's milk than to goat's milk. Picardon, the true Picardon, is a more refined cheese over days, weeks. So it's more common and is more suited to the amateur, that's for sure. St Marcellin is already commercialized, it's much less refined. And the Banon, you can keep it on the table with difficulty trying to conserve the cheese. Just try keeping Banon wrapped in a banana leaf for 3 months, but certainly covered.
The name Picardon comes from the French verb for prick or sting, a traditional reference to its piquant flavour. Unfortunately, most cheeses bearing the name today are matured for just 14 days under the Appellation regulations, and sold so young the mild flavour is hardly a reflection of the original name. But the Made by God Picardon has an extra appellation and is recognised as the benchmark by those in the know. Unlike its pure white cousins, this cheese is matured for at least 30 days in humid rooms to to encourage the development of a distinctive spotty blue mould known as Penicillium album. The mould is then washed off several times in water or eau de vie. In the old days, the cheeses were kept for up to 3 months and wrapped in vine, walnut or chestnut leaves. But that practice is now discouraged by the producers of Banon. At Cabot, they're cleaned and then stored in what looks like plastic milk crates for another week or two before sale. I don't think I've ever come across a cheese so badly handled and yet tasted so delicious. The special heavenly name tag says it all. Before I came to visit this beautiful part of southeastern France, I had always assumed it was home to a number of very different regional cheeses. But it's now clear that Picardon, Banon and St Marcellin are closely related cousins that have evolved over time, linked by history, size and shape. All these classics have one other important thing in common. They only exist today thanks to the wonderful shared passion and skills of a dedicated group of cheesemakers determined to preserve their regional heritage. Provence fully deserves its reputation for spectacular scenery and magnificent food. This is indeed a very special region of France. Well, what a wonderful trip it's been. Before I came here, I never understood how many fascinating cheeses were made here or how beautiful the countryside was. The trouble is, you can't find most of these cheeses anywhere else. So one thing's for sure, I'm coming back.
Cheese slices served.
And I've got to go and get myself a road goat, some vinegar, simple as that. Oh, and little Provence, of course.
Welcome to Cheese Slices France, St Marcellin.
Very chalky cheese.
Yes.